Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested. Today's episode of This Is Only a Test was brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. And if you're a listener of this podcast, which I know you guys are, use the offer code TEST at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace, build it beautiful. And on with the show. For November 26th, 2015, this is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested. Oh, nope. .com. Everybody, the rocket just blew up. I'm sorry. I apologize. You know, space missions are hard. This is Norm. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am joined today. I want to introduce my guests right away. First time on the show, and our newly minted senior science correspondent, Kishore Hari.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. First time, long time.
First time. Oh, wow. You're a first time, long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that short for, I think it's short for first time guest, long time listener.
That's right.
Isn't it supposed to be long time, first time? Long time listener, first time caller?
I guess so. But you were so close there on the intro. So close.
Well, I want to give people a little bit of the sausage making to show people how it's made. But Sean Charlesworth, our other guest.
Hello. Greetings.
Our rapid fabrication CNC correspondent and lead expert. It's a whole new crew this week. Jeremy and Patrick couldn't make it, and it's also the week of Thanksgiving. So thank you guys, first and foremost, for coming in.
I mean, this is like
today.
the A team, and those guys are the B team. We got rid of them
true.
for...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been doing 327 episodes of this podcast, and we saved you guys for 328.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a very fortuitous number.
Yeah. And Kishore's got a great radio voice.
It's a wonderful radio
Only
voice.
because I have a massive cold, and so I sound like I should be in a jazz club right now.
Excellent. Well, the rocket launch, as you guys heard, was not very successful this morning. And by that, I mean every time we record this podcast, it is like NASA mission control. Today, more so than ever. Now, if you listened to our podcast last week, the audio, I think, was just fine. Patrick, I know, was a little quiet, and hopefully Sean can make up for that by not being as breathy as Patrick. But if you watch the video, I apologize. At the very end of last week's podcast, we had a 3-year-old, a intern, running around the office doing interny things, and I think the TriCaster, the video mixing board that we use to pipe and edit our video, caught his eye, all those bright lights.
It's shiny.
And he hit all the buttons. He hit every single button.
Don't blame the child.
I'm not blaming him. He did a fantastic job.
I think
he activated explosions.
That was the best part of the podcast last week.
You gotta watch,
no offense, but
you got to watch the last 5 minutes of last week's podcast to see the magic of a young Norton.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this week when we all came in to start the podcast, we did not know how to reverse his engineering magics. And so Joey came in, fixed everything, and then of course I ran our transition keys as opposed to our opener. So
the rocket blew up. It probably doesn't speak well about us that our solution to trying to fix it was to hit as many buttons as we could to
press all the things.
Reverse all of the buttons that the person hit last week.
We turned it on and off.
We turned it on and off. We didn't check if there were driver updates, but I did find a different profile that did work. Took a photo of what was lit up on the TriCaster and it's exactly how NASA does it.
Totally.
It's how mission control works. When the new Capcom guy comes in, they take a photo of what buttons were lit up with last year's Capcom, and then they just mimic the buttons.
And then we dumped all the mailbags out and tried to disassemble a new TriCaster from what we had there.
It's true.
It didn't work.
I think as the science correspondent, I have to be offended on behalf of NASA that we even made that analogy. But we made it through. We Apollo'd 13 our way through it.
Space is hard. Podcasting, also hard. Also hard. Now I'm going to say harder. Just also different degrees of hard.
Hopefully that'll be the worst analogy we make this show.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
I'm doing really well. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year, with American Thanksgiving coming and Black Friday, which is one of my favorite things in the world.
So I know we have a lot of international listeners. So we're making a conscious decision to call it American Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving.
So my question was, I know there's Canadian Thanksgiving.
That's right.
What, is there any other Thanksgivings? I don't
know.
Is there just North America? America?
What is Canadian Thanksgiving?
Canadian Thanksgiving is a celebration of the fall harvest, and it happens
Sounds
mostly
very pagan.
And it happens generally in about like October. It's usually a month ahead of American Thanksgiving.
Nice.
But they have no stories of pilgrims and the rape of indigenous people. Right? None of that.
None of those uplifting things that really make you want to eat your body weight in turkey.
Is it turkey up as well up there?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Do the children put their hands in blood and smatter it on pieces of paper and then symbolically draw the animal they will feast upon?
Slaughter. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It's almost exactly the same according to Wikipedia, whatever that means. But they have roasted turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and there's a double header of Canadian football on that day too.
What's Canadian football?
Canadian football is the same as American football, except they have 20-yard
More
end
polite?
zones. No, it's not more polite. It's they have a longer field, though it's still in yards, not meters, and I don't understand that.
This is.
I don't understand that in general with the metric system when things pop up in miles or it seems a little interchangeable sometimes. Yeah.
Well, technically, it is interchangeable. You just got to do the math.
Whether
you comprehend it, I mean, the dial shows both.
Oh man,
the speedometer shows both.
I wish we were on metric.
We will talk about Thanksgiving and I think Kishore's favorite holiday, Black Friday, in just a little bit. But this past weekend, I was down in Los Angeles for Designer Con. Have you guys heard of Designer Con before?
I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it.
Yes, I was not familiar either, but it looked awesome.
Sean, it was one of those places where being there, I wish I had brought people like you.
Yeah, I just watching your Twitter feed, it looks like one of the cons that I would want to go to.
Yeah, I think it has been going on for 4 to 5 years. It was started by toy collectible enthusiasts, and if you follow the kind of the art scene, the pop art scene, with posters, prints, deviant art, and people making toys, and sculptors and illustrators and artists, there was a huge rise in art toy collectability about, I want to say, 10 years ago. It kind of waned. Companies like Kid Robot, Giant Robot, but now you have a lot of people, as there are more materials available and more instructions in places where you can learn how to make molds and cast items, like on tested.com. There are a lot of people who are making their own toys, and this is a convention in Pasadena. Very large convention space, not as big as a Comic-Con, but definitely more than just your Lego convention, one single ballroom. Hundreds of booths, and basically the artists that you would follow on Instagram or that maybe you would meet in the artist alley at a Comic-Con, this is their show. They are the stars, and there are hundreds of them. Each bring the toys that they've made and the sculptures they've made and putting them for sale or on display.
Yeah, I having seen it now, I think 1 year I will be there with the Octopod.
Oh yeah!
Did you go by yourself?
Happen.
I went with Frank, and then we also hung out with Bobek. Gonna name drop the Hawk, and we had a lot of fun. We walked around. We actually met a bunch of artist friends that we had either interviewed before or that Frank knew. Frank's very connected in the LA effects industry scene. So some of his friends from Face Off met up with Tim Gore, who's a painter, a special effects painter, famous. He's worked on a ton of creature movies, and he sells Tim Gore's Bloodlines paint. And we've used those before on our week of builds. And then we actually met a ton of people, both attendees and also people who had booths who were either familiar with or fans of Tested. Some people, surprising number of people, have booths and make toys because they saw videos on Tested.
That's awesome.
And maybe they only sculpted casually before, but now they have like their own line of figurines.
That's great.
Really, really cool. You're right. Next year, Sean,
I
you
will
should be
totally go.
there.
Yeah, I'll totally go.
I think I want a booth there next year for Tested.
That would be awesome. We should totally do that.
I think we should totally do that.
Yeah.
Definitely sell some merch, get some sculpting demos, some mold
We'll
making
take a
demos.
3D printer.
Yeah.
Actually, did you see a lot of 3D printed stuff
Yes.
there? I would imagine for that type of thing.
A wide range. I saw the Form 2 there.
Yeah.
Some people there was a Form 1. Some people were making stuff with the printers and immediately selling them
Oh, that's great.
right after.
Wow.
Nice.
There were people
So they could sell like
that's
3
tough.
figures.
right, throughout the weekend.
or a bunch of really tiny ones.
Well, there were booths for educational places that showed and maker spaces that showed, okay, we use 3D printers, and then you can then mold them and cast them, clean it up, and
Yeah.
it's a way to make toys and prototype toys. And then there were some people there whose entire line of collectibles were all 3D printed. And they made their own little like mechs and action figures, and they just want them to be 3D printed because they didn't want to do the rotocasting and stuff with the plastic.
That's interesting because that's something that I've been thinking about recently. Is that I sell some stuff on my Etsy store, and it's all 3D printed. And I do get the comment a lot. I was like, oh, we should really be casting these or whatever. And I think that there is a lot of time when that is definitely the way to go. But then there's other times when I'm like, I'm not so sure if it would, like, because sometimes you can just hit go on the printer and let it do its thing and then it's done, versus sitting there and having to mold and cast and clean up everything. And like there's pretty much no cleanup on the prints as well. So I think for certain things, printing is perfectly acceptable.
What I feel like is that there's one aesthetic choice. You're
Mhm.
making a design choice. There's a look to 3D printed items and a look to a molded and casted piece of plastic using different materials. There's a different cost for
Mhm.
that. There's definitely a on-demand aspect to it. So if someone is molding and casting a series of figurines, like if to do one, it's easy. And then you have to make a set of 4, and then you make another block mold to then do another 4 at a time.
Right.
So you're building inventory at that point. With 3D printing, you can take the money if someone buys it from that store and then print on demand. You're not building inventory. And then also you have the ability, really the advantage of 3D printing, of modifying and scaling.
Yes.
Choosing what colors and what plastics to use for that specific print. If someone wants something from a design that you made at a specific size, you
Yes.
can then do that. And you can't so easily
And
resize and rescale.
I've done all of those things. I got somebody wanted a pink TARDIS.
Right.
I did a pink TARDIS the other day.
Yeah.
So when you go to some of these places, do they sell like download codes instead of like selling physical things?
They haven't.
I'm wondering if that's the next step. It's like, here's $10. Here's your iTunes code for wherever it's going to be hosted.
That is happening on some stuff. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think online definitely, not
Yeah.
in at a
At
convention.
like the designer con. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely online. People and there's talk of then file sharing, right? Like you can't have a code that you only load once and then disintegrates. That depends on the software and the platform.
Right.
And most of the printers that people buy, if you want the mass market, you're going to have to use code files that can move between software.
For this con, what was the ratio of fans to actual makers and people producing content? Was it a good fan experience?
Yeah, totally. It didn't feel crowded. And there's a video we put up over the weekend where Frank and I give a walking tour of a walk and talk of Designer Con. We just chatted for about 15 minutes while walking through to give you a sense of the space and how crowded it is. It was nowhere near as crowded as one of those craft fairs, holiday craft fairs you see, like the Renegade Craft Fair in San Francisco.
Oh my God, I'm going to one of those this weekend and I'm dreading it.
Etsy has one this
Yeah.
weekend, I think, and they're very popular. If you live near a big town, you often see like a franchise craft fair where they bring makers and there's some cool stuff there. Definitely a great place to buy gifts. We talked about this with Adam on Still Entitled before. It's a great place to find one-of-a-kind items to gift to your friends. But I do find there's a lot of soap what's called that. Like soap is like the thing that I don't need.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for maybe the art prints or the custom sculpts, but I'm finding a lot of soap and jewelry that is great for some other people, but not for me. This convention was just like the 4 people that I love from those craft fairs, except multiplied by 100.
That's awesome. So did you buy anything?
I did. It was a very much a shut up and take my money type of place, but I resisted. Frank chose
tough.
wisely not to bring a wallet. I did buy something that it's gonna get shipped up to me because they ran out of stock. I didn't want to like spoil all the things I bought because
Sure, we got to reveal this.
I will say the awesome thing I bought, and it was a blanket that had the Shining print on it, the carpet.
Oh wow!
I saw some pillows recently too.
Yeah.
I think that print has a special place in your life.
Yes. So it's actually the second one of those blankets I have. But yeah, there's stuff. If you see things on Instagram I posted, then it's like many of those things I also purchased because I could not resist. DesignerCon, highly recommend it, and it's like the right time of year for this type of convention. Like basically the message is support independent artists. Check out their work, follow them. You don't even have to buy their stuff, but follow their work on Facebook and Instagram, and something might resonate with you. It's also really interesting from a manufacturing and like a maker, because we talked about 3D printing, the wide range of production capabilities and production styles. Some people are doing, rapid prototyping. A lot of people are doing hand casted, hand painted, and then there's overseas casted and painted and different materials, your ABS versus your vinyl. And going to these conventions really gives you a sense of the difference between how something is made and why something might cost $50 as opposed to $15 because it was made by hand here as opposed to made overseas. And even the stuff made overseas, guess what? It's not like a machine made it. Someone actually made it over there too. It may have been made in a factory, but they are handmade and most of the time hand painted. But anyway, DesignerCon, and let us know if there are conventions that you guys go to, craft fairs and artist places that we can check out in the future, because I love checking those things out.
And you are on the sound effects now.
Bam. Yeah, we like the transition sound effects. We call those the keys. Let's talk about Thanksgiving and the American holiday that has been attached to it, Black Friday. What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving?
So I am basically napping in preparation for Black Friday. So like my favorite part about Thanksgiving, going back to my youth, is like my family would play a terrible game of football out in the yard. Then we'd eat a lot of food, and then I would take a nap. So I'm planning on watching football, playing football with my son, taking a nap, and then going shopping. Wow. It is like, I know how ridiculous that is, because I don't think it's popular right now necessarily to come out and be like, I love Black Friday. I think most people are like, you're a crazy person. And I am, but I like actually the theater of going out.
You actually go out
on
Black Friday. I mean, there are tiers of Black Friday resistance and backlash, and there's I shop online, that's how I'm going to embrace the consumerism this holiday season, or I'll wait for Monday or whatever. No one goes out.
So people do go out, because you see like the video montage of all of the people out, and like there's definitely people that go out.
Isn't it the same like file footage from 10 years ago?
No, it's still like legit. And I try to like Google released a schedule of when they think stores are most crowded. They release that now. Like you can look when you search like restaurants and stuff. They show you like the crowd peaks and stuff.
Big data.
Apparently there was merit to actually going early and waiting in line. as far as like the crowds.
Well, it depends on what you want to get. But I'm leaving around 9:30 with a couple friends. We have like a whole like dossier. We have a Google map out that we go to a lot of places. It's totally ridiculous.
But what are you buying? And tell me about the places you're going to. Is it the big box stores, small places?
Well, not necessarily small places. It's a combination thereof. So I pretty much do my clothes shopping once a year. I pretty much do it on this night. So like all those socks that have holes in them in my closet get replaced on this night.
That's fair.
Like the jeans that have holes in them get replaced on this night. I usually go out for some electronics. So this year, I put together a gaming PC, and I have a couple like peripherals that I'm going to be getting that night to fill that out, like a new gaming keyboard and mouse, and then I'm getting a second monitor for my system. So these are all kind of minor purchases.
And these are things that you need to go to the actual location to get?
Not one
so
bit.
It's the theater and the
of
ritual. Do you document it at least?
Do I? Sort of. I
Or
mean,
is it really, you got to be in the moment.
I got to say, at like 3:30 in the morning, it gets really hard to document it. But like, we even have a place mapped out that we're going to take a nap in a parking lot.
Hyperlapse it. You got to hyperlapse Black Friday.
3:30 in the morning? What?
So we leave at like 9. This year we're leaving at 9 o'clock at night, and like I think we're mapped out till about 8 in the next morning, going to places. It's super ridiculous.
Wait, on Thursday, Thanksgiving
you're
night, where families typically get together.
I'm still going to Thanksgiving dinner.
But you're talking about 9 o'clock. So when your early Thanksgiving dinner, and then roll right in. That's the energy.
No.
That's the fuel for your shopping spree.
Don't get me wrong. You guys should be judging me. This is totally insane. And like every year, I basically have a conversation with my wife where it's like, please don't leave me because I'm a crazy person right around when I do this. But
well, it sounds like you have a whole group though, and it's kind of like it's a bonding like adventure kind of thing.
It is, and we usually try to come up with really weird places to go. Like we are talking about driving out to Stockton this year because we're like, I wonder what it's like out there.
So it really is like The Purge. Like you know that movie The Purge?
It is not like The Purge. It's not like
It's
The
like
Purge.
the Rick and Morty. We're like, is this like The Purge? We're like with the one night a year where everyone's allowed to kill each other. Yeah, let's go embrace The Purge. And you totally are embracing The Purge.
And I totally
the
recognize
Splurge. It's the Splurge.
It's the
There you go.
Nice.
You should
once a year.
You should
The
see the
Splurge.
ridiculous nonsense on our list too. Like one of the key items I have to get is a crock pot that's like $12. Like,
Wait. So you
I got
actually,
it for $8.
You actually are going for doorbusters.
No, I'm not going after any doorbusters. I mean, you can functionally look at the doorbusters, and they're specifically manufactured for this day, and they're like usually lesser quality. I usually just go on the wire cutter and figure out anything that I want for those like big box things.
Right.
Whether it's TV or whatnot. So I don't do crazy things like that. But for like a monitor that's like, I'm spending $100 on it. It's fine.
I do not doubt that there are things that you have on your list that you're going to want to buy at some point in the holiday shopping season. Looking out for deals, being smart about how you make your purchases. If you're going to make them anyway, that is a good thing to do. And like sites like you mentioned, the Wirecutter, who they have teams of people who actually every day look at the deals and do the analysis. That's great. Like if I know I need an external hard drive, and this is the time to maybe spend the same amount of money and get more capacity or something, or get your like gaming peripherals. Yes, I'm never gonna go seek out and buy things that I don't want or need just because the event calls for it. The splurge calls for it. I like this. I like the splurge. Why is there not a Funny or Die skit about the annual the splurge once a year?
So wait, where are you guys going to be come
I actually
Friday?
So yeah, Sean, what do you do for Black Friday?
I don't. I worked retail for 10 years through high school and college, and F that.
So you meet with the support group every year?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving?
I do not do Black Friday. And then so I had an inside hatred of it just working in retail, and then living in New York for 12 years, it's like I can't take it. Like shopping enough like on the weekend in New York can be crazy, and going out during the holidays, I just dreaded it. I hated it. So I stay at home, and I definitely take advantage of Cyber Monday.
I go to bed early. I go to bed early, and it just let the purge, the splurge happen. I know that I don't want to think about the deals that I'm missing out on because that's not healthy.
Yes.
There are a few retailers online that then, because of the holiday, the quote unquote holiday, they'll release some items that maybe I'll want like only this weekend, and then I'll check those online, and I have those in Google Calendar, like look online at this website at this time. And then maybe if I find something I like, that's fine. It's not like the only time, like especially with electronics, you don't need to buy it this weekend because throughout the holiday season, until January, there are going to be deals. And I find like the best clothing time to buy clothes is actually right before Christmas. They have like all the stores have big 40
They get
one
desperate.
day.
Yeah.
They get desperate. It's like 40% off day or something.
Please buy.
And as long as you go then, and I know it's crowded then, that's like the best time I felt like. To buy that stuff.
There's a lot of sites that time when certain deals are for certain types of purchases and I think for most like computers and peripherals, I think January is actually one of the better times to do it because any excess inventory left over from the holiday shopping season gets heavily discounted.
Yes.
Or you get returns.
That's right.
Of stuff that was never really used.
And you should always look at the product release cycle.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy this type of product, look at the historical trends, and there are plenty of websites that show how cyclical those product cycles are. For a laptop, the Skylake is out now for the processors or mobiles, so maybe now's a good time to buy that new Asus laptop with the Core M3 and look at the reviews, or maybe now it's time to buy the discounted last year's model. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people get focused on, I need to buy it because it's the holidays, and I need to buy it for gift giving. The best gifts are actually the ones that aren't discounted things, but the more unique items that people don't expect or know they want.
I do find I find with the Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing, I end up buying far more stuff for myself than anybody else.
Yeah, I think last year, same here. I mean, it's and here's actually another. Maybe this year I'm just gonna go full on not sleep tonight. We're recording this on Wednesday, so not sleep tonight. And so on Thursday night, I'm gonna be super delirious and go on an Amazon spree or a web buying spree. So what's gonna happen is the best surprise, like drunk buying, like sleep deprived delivery the next few days. Prime shipping. Oh, I bought this over on Thursday. I didn't realize.
You should just have me text you because I'm going to be in that position. I have this really ridiculous thing. I got the code for the Echo to be discounted for like $100 when it was like it first came out, and I never bought it. And now I'm on like a warpath that I have to get it for that price again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it won't. And like tomorrow somehow it'll magically be that price, but only for like 500 units or some other nonsense like that.
Well, last year Amazon did probably the best deal, I think, which was $10 off any book or something like that. It was like as long as you spent more than $20 or $30.
I know at one point they had like I think a 30% off.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Because I got a second copy of the Star Wars Blueprints.
Costume. Oh, Blueprints. Nice.
I actually need to get the costume this year. Yeah.
So like stuff like that, where you're going to want to buy something and it's a huge percentage off. Sites like Gizmodo and Wirecutter will have that listed. Just check for those top, must have. You can't miss out on this missed opportunity things, but not like I'm not going to go through that entire list. And
I think my favorite thing to pick up is the like Blu-ray box sets and stuff like that. That is always like one of the biggest things I end up getting.
Coffee table books.
You guys are missing out. Just wait till you see my hyperlapse.
What we need to do is strap a GoPro with a stabilized gimbal on your chest and make sure it records, and then have someone to recharge the batteries or swap out the video or the memory card every couple hours, and we'll stitch all the video together, and it'll be the hyperlapse. And the camera, to be fair, it's not actually pointing outward to the world. It's just at your face. So looking at the deals and getting more excited,
and then wearing
down, and still making the purchases, like holding things up, like I want this, no, yes, okay, I want it. Yes, hyperlapse, the face of a shopper, the face of the splurge.
The face of the splurge.
Embrace the splurge.
Now I'm starting to feel guilty about this whole thing, I should.
No, it's okay.
And you guys want to talk a little bit about tech? Yeah?
Okay.
Why not? Hold on. Gotta run those keys. So some news. Let's go through a little bit of what's been happening in both technology and science, since we do have our senior science correspondent here. Some space stuff this week. So we had NASA ordering its first crewed mission from a private company, SpaceX, and this is to bring astronauts to the International Space Station.
I'm really excited about this. I mean, first of all, it makes a lot of sense just financially. Right now, we're sending people up on the Russian Soyuz rockets right now, and it costs, I think it costs around $40 million a launch. Or no, it's $70 million a launch for that Soyuz, and only 3 astronauts can go aboard the Soyuz. So going in this private model, it opens up to potentially 7 astronauts on each of those launch vehicles, and there's some indication that the price point will be significantly less than that $70 million a piece.
So this is NASA isn't just working with SpaceX; they are also working with Boeing. But SpaceX has secured the actual first order, and it's not going to happen this year, obviously, or next year. It will be several years from now. Dragon capsule, the manned Dragon capsule, has not been proven yet, so there's still a series of tests. But this basically ensures the funding and the order placed, so they need to deliver.
They said late 2017, which seems aggressive to me.
All of NASA's estimates always seem aggressive.
Well, that's actually SpaceX estimate, and
Really?
SpaceX has been much closer on their estimates than NASA typically is. But anytime you use the word crewed mission, the safety protocols, the amount of testing that goes into place is so significantly higher. I can't imagine late 2017 being a reality. But just there's a little bit of sort of nationalistic pride about us being able to send astronauts to space again as a country.
Yep.
Back here in the U.S. that I think is great. But I'm also excited that additional capacity can't go understated how important that is, because it's the thing that sort of starts to set up some of the longer term missions. NASA's working on something called the SLS and the Orion, which are launch systems for a space vehicle to go to Mars.
Yep.
And in order to be able to build those, we need to be able to send more than 3 astronauts to space to actually start some of the experiments and construction to build those pieces in space. So this is a huge step forward, and I'm really excited to see them do it.
Yeah, Soyuz right now you said carries 3, and Dragon up to 7, although I think there's going to put more cargo and about 4 people in there. I didn't realize it was $70 million per seat on Soyuz. That's crazy. I mean, space is also expensive. Yeah.
I feel like that's actually not that much money in the grand scheme of things. Because so much of that, I mean, you're factoring in so many different costs there. But, just like with everything, everyone takes a cut, right? And so when you're farming out this to another country, they're going to take a larger cut than you farming out directly to one other person.
Putin needs his cut.
Putin needs his cut, right?
Putin and his guys. They all need their space cuts. Yeah. Have you guys seen the Dragon capsule and how high-tech it looks?
I've never seen it in person.
I mean, just photos.
I've seen, photos and renderings.
It looks seriously. First of all, it looked really spacious for some reason. Like
it does, but I don't think that's in reality
no,
what it's going to feel like.
No. I mean, they're going to want to pack that as much as possible with security, electronics, and gear. But when they did that first unveil, which I want to say was this year, and they brought people in to look at the facility. I mean, there were those touch screens that looked like they were taken out of the Tesla, the Model S, and the seats were like, very ergonomically designed. It almost looked like a science fiction movie set, like the kind of capsule you would build that Sci-Fi Channel or Chris Nolan would build for his movie production.
It definitely makes the Soyuz look like a Chevy Impala, because like the Soyuz is rough in terms of its look and ergonomic. Ergonomics is not a word that you would associate with the Soyuz capsule.
Although, don't knock the Soyuz. I think Chris Hadfield made a big point of saying, don't knock the Soyuz. It's
utility-wise, it's incredible, but it's not. It doesn't have many principles that you would say like, wow, a designer really put in a lot of thought in terms of in terms of function around a lot of these different pieces.
Yeah, the Russians are about getting
Very
stuff done.
Russian.
Getting stuff done. In other space news, Jeff Bezos, his company, he has a space company, a rocket company. Billionaires and
Everybody,
rockets. I mean, they go hand in hand. Everyone wants to be a rocket. Which is great. Like That's really, really nice.
It's great. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm in a Bond movie a little bit.
Well, they definitely want the prestige. It's good that they're looking forward, and obviously they see financial opportunity for it. It is like
For
looking
sure.
very, very forward. But it's about spending the money to get the math done and to get the processes worked out for commercial crewed spaceflight. And that information, some of it will be proprietary, but a lot of that will get funneled back into NASA and hopefully inform future decisions. And so Bezos with Blue Origin this week on Monday launched the Shepard rocket, named after Alan Shepard, and it went up about 100 kilometers, and then landed. Landed basically VTOL style, vertical takeoff and landing.
This is in West Texas that he did it, so it didn't attempt to land on a barge like Elon Musk's SpaceX capsule did. Did you watch the video?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is really amazing.
I mean, they really
I
they hyped it
actually
and
have
shot
not
it up
seen
to
it,
look
yeah.
really
So-
science fiction and epic.
The Blue Origin video is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like how they edited it together. They edited together with this like CGI bits of what it would be like to be up in almost a suborbital
Right.
thing with CGI of people in the capsule.
Which is clearly not the actual footage of what you
no,
see.
it's clearly CGI.
Yeah.
And then, but then which makes no sense to me because the actual VTOL, as you say, is really beautiful and really impressive because the controlled descent. I mean, they get the capsule down to like, I think I read a report, it was about 4 meters a second before it landed, which is basically like us walking really fast,
Right.
which is incredible to take a rocket and bring it right back down to the ground. Now what I think interesting is this isn't the first time something like this has happened, though Bezos made it sound like it was the first time it happened.
Of course. Egos. A lot of egos at play. And the reason to have this type of VTOL launch and landing is reusable rockets. That's a huge thing that any commercial space flight company is trying to do
Saves so
right now.
much money.
Yes, you don't lose the rockets in the ocean. You can actually, and not many people have had success. I don't think SpaceX has had a success like this before. But they're to be fair,
Not to that altitude.
they've tried higher altitudes.
Yeah.
SpaceX is going for
They're going for what's called suborbital,
Yeah.
which is a much higher altitude. They've demonstrated this successfully. I think it was in 2013 with something called the Grasshopper, which only went a few hundred meters into the air
Yeah.
and landed back down.
And I love that the companies are, while everyone is kind of encouraging spaceflight, they're all competing with each other, and there's nice Twitter shade being thrown around between the CEOs.
Elon Musk threw some shade at Bezos last night
Totally.
on Twitter. It was, I think Will always said that Elon Musk is the best late night Twitterer in the world, and I agree with that because like past 11 p.m. local time, all of a sudden his Twitter feed will light up with like the most random stuff, and he basically was like, "Congrats, Jeff," but that wasn't the first launch of this kind. So he did throw a little shade at him, but I do agree the competition's really healthy. What I think is really interesting from a science standpoint isn't so much the first landing that Bezos did. It's the reusability of that shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do another launch here, who knows when? They're not actually saying when, but hopefully, next year, using that same shuttle again and reproduce this test with a second use of that same shuttle. So ensuring that there was not any sort of catastrophic damage to it, that it was all repairable, and then you can reuse, then we got something.
Yeah.
I just watched the video. That is really, really cool. It's very, very sci-fi.
The 2013, watching that the Grasshopper video in 2013, I think was even more awesome because, like, one, you're seeing this amazing feat of rocket engineering, and two, it was filmed with a quadcopter and stabilized camera, which at that time, 2013, was like, what? How are they getting this footage so close and so clear and so stable? And there were still the budding commercial companies that were competing with each other. So it was like, it really felt like near future science fiction at that point, which it still feels like now. And things like these events happening make the events of Seven Eves, for example. I don't know if you guys have, some of you guys out there have read it for sure, but feel more believable. Like, wow, if the greatest minds and the deepest pockets in the world right now put their efforts to it, we could actually make something happen.
All in all, I think this is a really important moment for private sector space exploration. But at the same time, know that Blue Origin's motives here aren't to do the same thing that SpaceX is doing. Mm-hmm. They're not going after government contracts. They're not looking to sort of partner with NASA in the same way. They're looking at, almost space tourism as a big angle here. So while this reusable rocket is a big component, I really think SpaceX's work towards the barge is the more realistic thing if we want to see this work really come to the forefront in terms of utilization for NASA in the future.
And dramatic expansion of human spaceflight. And Bezos also wants to do asteroid mining. There's a lot of money in
that's
the
a whole nother thing. I just interviewed
Call Bruce Willis.
I just interviewed an astronaut on my science podcast who works on asteroid deflection, and I asked him about asteroid mining and just gave me a big sigh. So it just sighed and the most oh god, not this again.
We need
so
that
that's a whole other
unobtainium.
podcast.
That's coming up next. Well, to fund SpaceX, and you get those government contracts, billions worth. But Elon Musk's other venture is, of course, Tesla. And the Tesla Model X pricing has finally been released. I know there was early word about how much the Model X, which is their crossover SUV with the Falcon wing doors / gull wing doors, and the high end was going to be at the Signature Edition in the $120,000 range, but you can, I think, pre-order the cheapest one, which is $80,000 for the 70D model.
It's a bargain.
So you rode around in this model
I
at
did.
Tesla.
Actually, I rode around not in the 70D, in the P90D. I rode around the Signature Edition, the ludicrous mode. The difference between the models, if you care, and I know not many people out there are in the market maybe to buy the Tesla. Some of you I know have them already. A lot of it's going to depend on maybe three factors: the range, which is battery capacity, how they convert that energy into acceleration, so how they tweak the torque, and then also your kind of top speed, right? So the 70D actually still has a 220-mile estimated range compared to on the high end 250. You're only losing about 30 miles, which is not bad at all.
Which is not much at all,
Not much.
especially since the average commuter, at least in this country, is only going about 70 to 80 miles a day.
Yeah. And with the increasing number of their charging stations and Tesla superchargers, you could do with 220-mile charge the trip from here to LA and have your in-and-out lunch, in Coalinga or wherever it is. Acceleration. That's what I think people are really paying for. Or, that's not what people are paying. I'll tell you what they're paying for in just a second. Acceleration, it's 4.8 seconds for the 3.2 for the ludicrous mode, which is what I got to ride in, versus twice that speed in the normal one. 6 seconds from 0 to 60. 6 seconds from 0 to 60 is really fast, guys.
3.2 is ludicrous.
That's why they call it ludicrous.
That's
mode.
like hitting a button on an on-ramp and you just being at top speed before you get to the end of it.
That is literally the demo that every Tesla owner has shared with their family and friends, is accelerating onto a freeway on the on-ramp going uphill and being at 60 to 65 miles per hour by the time they merge into the lane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And going from 0 to 60 at 3.2 seconds, there's a tested video for premium members out there where I did that test ride and shot it with the iPhone. I could feel the air hitting the back of my throat as that happened, and we did it twice. It is really ludicrous.
I saw that video. You make the weirdest sound too when it first kicks in. You're like, oh.
But that is the sound of the air hitting my throat. Like I couldn't. Even the second time, knowing it was going to happen, I choked on speed. I was choking on speed. But I think what people are really going to be paying for if they're paying $120,000 for a Tesla Model X over the 80,000 plus whatever extras for the 70D, is getting it early. You pay to get early access. It's almost like Kickstarter backing. You're giving them this money now, and you're really with no interest. You're being promised a place in line.
So P90D comes out like Q1, Q2 of next year.
Yeah.
and the 70D probably end of year next year. Is
And
that
a year,
right?
and depending on how fast those factories work, it might even be later than that. I mean, this is not a car that has been on schedule. And they just did a recall. They did a recall of every single Model S. If you are a Tesla Model S owner, they want you to go to a dealership, and I know you've had the warning already, because the seatbelt mechanism can fail. Like the attachment, they had one person do
That-
a quick turn in the seat, and the seatbelt, the latch popped off.
That's of all the things that could go wrong. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of some drones earlier in filming and stuff, we've also have some new some updates with the FAA. So currently, the FAA has a task force out there, a committee of people from both the private sector and drone companies, quadcopter companies, and also some people from more established FAA organizations. Deciding what the process of registering drone registration and regulation is going to be. And the task force has put up a recommendation. They did this earlier, saying that all drones should be registered, which has led to a lot of drone advocates like tweeting photos of their children's quadcopters, their toy quads. Like, is my son gonna have to register his little foam quadcopter? Is my daughter gonna have to
Right.
register her Disney quadcopter? No, they won't. What the task force has now put out this week is that they know that it's gonna be difficult to enforce, and they know they need to make for this to work, it needs to be as seamless and easy as possible. So it needs to be, one, be free, and two, need to be a thing you can just sign up online for, and three, they also clarified that they're only going to require registration of these unmanned aerial systems weighing above 250 grams and to 55 pounds, I believe. And anything above that is different.
So 250 grams is a half pound,
Yep.
which is still a pretty small copter.
Yeah. No, it is. It's true. Yeah. There are plenty of. That
those-
Millennium Falcon.
Those Millennium Falcon weighs more than that you can get at Target and stuff. I mean, so pretty much the only one that I know are going to be almost those nano size ones. I
Yeah,
mean,
like the
there's
$20
like
ones.
the maybe like the $40 ones that are going to be that size, but they're talking about a wide majority of anything that you would consider flying outside, and a few that you would still consider flying inside at 250 grams.
Right. Right. This is not the law currently, so it is just a task force recommendation. So please, still stay tuned and
Yeah.
be careful.
The only thing I'm worried about with this is that, it's a recommendation, so we have no sort of, notion whether they're going to actually accept this or not. But their sort of recommendation on saying, like, it should definitely be easy to register this. I've never seen the FAA come
Do easy.
do easy well. So I'm actually really interested in about the registration process more so than the size.
Yeah. Yeah. They need to make it cheap and free. Or free and easy. That's what it is. Easy and free, not even cheap. There's no way to segue into this.
Oh, you
Drones are
gotta hit a
futurist-
button. Hit a
Oh,
button.
Hold on. Hey, drones may feel like the future, but something else that really feels like sci-fi in the future? Star Trek communicator buttons.
Oh yeah.
Badges. Did you guys have those? Did you guys make those growing up?
I have
Watching
a
Star
pin.
Trek?
I
The pins?
did not, but Kate owns one. My wife Kate owns one right now. Really nice.
I remember going into the Blockbuster that was close to my house. So that's how old the long time ago this was. It's late 90s, and spending $17 on a Star Trek Voyager communications pin.
Nice.
Where it was magnetized, and there was actually a piece of a speaker with a battery, so you can tap it and get sound effects.
And Janeway would talk to you?
No, it was just the
noise.
noise. The communicator. It was one of those pieces of technology from Star Trek. And why? I mean, not every piece of technology in a classic science fiction show should be turned into a real product, or should it make sense. They were just creations of the writers. But everyone wants to create a lightsaber. Everyone wants to create a tricorder. Everyone wants to create, hyperdrive, warp drive. And Google also apparently experimented with a communicator badge that you would wear exactly where
And
the officers wore in Star Trek. It was just a prototype, and there were photos of what it looked like. It didn't look like a Star Trek badge.
you know what, though? I've been trying to get a better picture of this, but I swear to God it has the Starfleet emblem on it.
You think it does?
I swear to God it does.
So this came out in Time.com is where the initial report came out. And there's only 2 pictures that were released. And it's a small kind of black disc.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of see what you're talking
There's
about.
something right up there, yeah. I don't know what that is.
Hold on,
What
I
is it?
apologize. That's me.
Okay.
Now, would you actually prefer this to voice recognition right now? Because I use Google Now. I use OK Google. I'm saying it really quietly so my phone doesn't actually do something. But I as soon as you said Star Trek communicator, I just start tapping my my left breast. I'm like, yeah, that sounds amazing. Like if I'm in my car, just tapping it. I mean, I do it a little bit with my Android Wear watch from time to time, just tapping it instead of using OK Google to get that going. But it actually seems pretty good, and it's really low profile compared to what the communicator badge on Star Trek would normally be sized at.
I think the lesson to take away from loving a technology in science fiction and trying to adapt it for reality is to do it in a really smart way, and to think about, one, it obviously creates motivation. Like Star Trek and just the mission, the idea of Star Trek created a generation of astronauts and their mindset. That's great. That's something you definitely want to foster. If you take a look at the Star Trek computer and modes of interaction with computers, like Google has said, they want to build the Star Trek computer, infinite repository of knowledge and data that can be accessed anywhere. That's admirable, but it's not exactly, they're not doing it for role-playing purposes. They're not miming exactly how that technology was used on the show, because that was written and implemented in the show for a narrative purpose. Just like the communicator had a narrative purpose and a functional purpose. So you take what is that functional purpose, and do you need the tapping on the communicator to activate it? Well, what it really looks like is that it's just a lav mic. It is just a microphone that is better positioned to capture your voice and have directional audio, that you can tap into a service like Google Now, which is their Star Trek computer. And needing to tap it is just an aesthetic. It's just it's an interaction decision.
I like it though. I feel that sometimes with the touch screens and everything, we've been going too far. I like the tactile, and OK Google, I think, is a really awkward phrase too to utter all the time. I like that the tactile. It's like I miss one of my favorite things, like MP3 and audio wise, is when I had mini disc players that had the little remote that you could clip on your strap, and there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for having the tactile, because I hate having to drag that out and fiddle with it every time, where I could just reach up on my strap and do everything. And I like the tactile. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a pure voice solution is the right way to go, because it's so difficult. And there are things like Amazon Echo, which they have omnidirectional microphones, but the way you use it isn't the same way you use it for specific tasks, and it's keyed for commands. If you're talking about what Google wants to do, which is capture every possible command, activating it makes a lot of sense. You see it with Apple TV and the Siri implementation. It is a hold down the microphone button to capture your command, let go of the microphone button to let Siri know when you stop talking. And so in terms of a tactile thing, it could be on the watch. It could be holding a button down, and then that's when it records. If you just have the one tactile activation, then it needs to be smart enough to know when you've stopped talking. Also, and where pauses are different from an actual end of query. And where you don't need to say end query at the end of your sentence to let the computer know you've stopped. And so that's another AI challenge. All of these are kind of half steps for the computer that actually is smart enough to parse and understand the intention of your search and what you're saying to it.
The one cute thing is they called it Project Majel.
Oh, Majel Roddenberry, the voice of the Star Trek computer. And also Yeoman, was she an ensign? She was
You're talking about Troy's mom.
I'm talking about the original Star Trek.
I know.
Where they originally met. She was a character. I forget her character's name.
I forget it too.
Fine, Luxana Troy. Let's call it that.
Yeah. I'm a TNG guy. Sorry.
I too am also TNG guy. I regardless, the product is no longer in development.
Right.
Project Majel. So, but it's interesting to see what they tried. And like I said, it's what we love about Google and what other companies are doing, and the inspiration they take from science fiction is that they can use those touchstones as a way to experiment with technologies and a motivating factor, because engineers really want to make it happen. And we'll get to what the actual practical implementation of that is eventually. So, again, I have no transition here, so, and that didn't work because I muted myself because of instant messages, but
there we go.
The rocket's just blown up nonstop. It's just like, sorry, Mark Watney.
You have turkey on your mind.
Yeah.
You can't focus.
Yeah. Earlier this year, we all, of course, heard, and especially our audience, heard about a certain clock that was quite controversial, we'll say.
Cool clock, bro.
Yeah. Ahmed Mohamed, who what grade was he in? 5th grade? 4th grade?
I don't remember now. No, he's not in 5th grade. It was more than that.
Middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school
Like
kid.
7th grade or something.
Wasn't arrested, detained by the school, and for the clock he assembled and showed to his teacher. Now, his family is suing.
He's suing both the school district and the city of Irving, Texas, I believe is it. He's suing, I think, the school district for $5 million and the city for $10 million. And as part of that, he's demanding an apology.
He meaning he slash his family slash lawyer.
Lawyer.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I'm sure like this is not so much driven by him as much as it is by the lawyer.
Yeah. The response to this on the internet, predictable. A lot of people say that's going to cause him to lose some sympathy.
I've lost a little sympathy for it for the pure reasoning that suing a school district, an under-resourced area of this country is not a valuable use of that school district's time when they're trying to educate a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think he deserves an apology. And I don't think he deserves an apology because he deserves an apology. I think he deserves an apology because the school district should stand for the educational outcomes of all of their students. And, whatever this situation was behind the scenes, whatever they say happened, a kid got really disenfranchised by what happened. And a school district should be big enough to just say, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I think that's I'm a huge stand for that apology happening just because I think it's the right thing to do. The suing the school district is the only thing that kind of is like, meh, I don't think that's...
I'm shocked that the school has not apologized. And I know they haven't apologized because there's then an admission of fault, and then which then lends itself to more financial potential remuneration and lawsuits. But I can't believe that they stand by their position.
There's some grumbling behind the scenes that the full story hasn't come out, and nor can it come out because there was information exchange between him and police in the district that they can't release without his sort of okaying of it because he's a minor. And so the school district has sort of not quietly grumbled that we're not getting the full story. And I think at the same time, they're just trying to get beyond it.
Wow. Well,
it's a sad story, and I actually hope the lawsuit does not proceed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Let's all be smarter about this, and smarter in the future. Yeah. I didn't put this piece on.
Oh, I put this piece on.
Oh, okay. Tell me what's happening with Google Next.
So, do you guys use Apple Pay at all?
No.
No? Not yet? Where's Jeremy when you need him?
Yeah.
So I just started using Android Pay because I'm unapologetically an Android fan. I feel
That's
like
good.
Tested needed one of those back again since Norm converted back to the dark side. And
I have both.
you have
I
both.
I carry both.
You do not carry both, do you?
I do carry both.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
That's
for different reasons. One for VR, and two because I don't have tethering on the Apple phone, and I need a tethering. And
that's actually really fair then. Well, I just started using Android Pay for the first time, and Google's really worried about adoption rates. One of the ways they're incentivizing it, they're donating $1 per use of Android Pay right now, up to $1 million, to Donors Choose, which is a site where teachers get to put projects online that they want funded. So $1 million going towards teachers through this holiday season. But I think this is really a play about getting people to actually use it.
And that's what bothers me. I hate it when companies are like, "Oh, we'll donate so much for everything you do," and that's it. Just give them the freaking money. I know it's a marketing play.
Tell me about your experience using Android Pay, the service, though, both in terms of setup and where you found retail that accepts it. And I'm just so accustomed, like by the time I get to the checkout, the wallet's already out and the credit card's already out, that there's no reason for me to then put the phone up to the machine.
So you're pretty much 100% right. Like, I would say setup was easy. Like, setup was great and easy. I've only used it at Walgreens, which is the only place I've come across that really sort of accepted it. And it was simple, but I get the look. Do you know what I mean by the look? Like, where you're like,
oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, you're one of those.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like,
it's the opposite look from using a check.
and exactly.
It's like a cousin of that look. It's
Yeah.
similar.
So I don't enjoy that look. So I'm wondering if we're going to get past that anytime soon. I guess if I had a stopwatch, it was technically faster because I have all chip cards now, like we should.
Oh, and I love the chip cards, but the chip cards also
They're slow.
They're slow. If there's anything that's gonna get me to use this type of digital payment, it's the chip cards. It's how slow the readers of the chip cards are.
And I don't understand why they are.
And it's like the readers. Then you swipe first, and then you have a chip card. Then let's put it in.
Yeah. So
You can see the chip. Just use the chip.
So the one advantage I think Android Pay has, and I didn't have this experience yet, is that it can store multiple cards at once. So like, let's say you're like a loyalty shopper, it can scan both of those cards at once, like your payment card and your loyalty card. So I don't have to enter my phone number in at checkout and then put in my payment
Man,
card.
that's gonna really help your Black Friday.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
purge agenda.
My splurge agenda, my efficiency is going to go up like 2.5% with this kind of model. So I think it's interesting to see if this gamut actually has any impact on utilization of the service. I suspect not, but at least I'm going to feel better about using Android Pay over the next couple months.
I like the idea of the Android Pay and doing that. It's just it's when it's not across the board adopted, then you go to the places like, do they take it? I don't know. And then there's that whole awkward like, once it's ubiquitous, then I'd be more. Yeah, it's awesome.
I feel bad for how retail employees are treated already, but this year, it's got to be the worst. I can't imagine. If you work in retail, let us know how many people come in, and whether with Android Pay or maybe with their Apple Watch, make the payment just to try it and do the, oh my God, I'm justifying my $300 purchase. This is so worth it.
Please don't send that in if that's me.
Like I mean, you don't take a picture of them, but like just give us your anecdotes. Like, are there people who actually go and like, ooh, I just want to try out the new gadget I bought and make the payment and kind of give themselves a little high five, like, I'm a futurist.
Or particularly in the area that we live, like how many people come in are irritated that you don't take that. It's like, what do you mean you don't take Android Pay? Da, 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 da.
No, I think that's got to be absurd.
I do not expect anyone outside of like directly outside of Mountain View near Google headquarters to ever make that statement.
Yeah. I do. I mean, to be fair, when Square became a thing, it was a little novel that someone was taking your credit card on their phone, and it was like, and that was on the in terms of the shopping experience, it was definitely more convenient because you didn't have to have cash, and it was, as a shopper, as a consumer, it was cool. Like, oh, okay, wow, this person, it said something about the person I was buying from. Like maybe they were more an independent retailer and making their own thing, and there was like definitely a feeling that was associated, a goodwill feeling associated with Square. Now everyone uses Square.
Yeah.
And so maybe it will become a more ubiquitous thing. It won't be such a novelty.
Square offers like a legitimate savings for me in the sense that it recognizes your card and emails you a receipt. That's actually a legitimate time savings for me, especially depending on what that use is. And then it can recognize the app and see you approaching for certain retailers, and then you can tap on your picture at that retailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
There's a lot of data it also stores. I mean,
it does. There's privacy concerns.
Retail knows how well you tip. And maybe they won't give you offers as you get close to alert you if you don't tip that well. There's so much behind the scenes. Do you guys have the Square the new Square reader? You guys have a Square account?
I do. I used it at Maker Faire for my booth. Yeah. And for I think Etsy has their own one now, but yeah, it worked really well. I was shocked. This was a few years ago. I was shocked like how many people would just like hand you their card on because this is a few years ago, so it was earlier. But yeah, people just like
take it, take my info.
Yeah.
What, you need my social security number? Take that too.
It did work really, really well. It's a very cool technology.
Convenience.
Yeah.
Never underestimate whether we're talking about human-computer interaction and search queries or shopping, the value of convenience, of subtle convenience. I mean, there's so much money in just mentally giving people the impression that they're saving some time or energy or thought process. And that's how you get people to adopt your service. And then you can take that information and build a giant big data business out of it.
Yeah.
I know we have like a lightning round of stuff to go through, but we've really buried the lead here about the thing we're most excited to talk about.
I'm going to say that for after the VR minute. It's going to be the very end. Oh, yeah, we did. It was at the top. It's going to be moved to the bottom. The next couple things you guys put on the list.
We'll put through real fast.
Yes. And Kishore,
welcome to the lightning round.
Here goes the news lightning round for which there is no musical cue. So I'm just going to play
Inception music for our new lightning round. Oh, so Sean and I are big fans of the next thing on the list.
Yes.
Which is Mystery Science Theater 3000's return.
Yes.
So you're a backer of this.
I am on the Kickstarter.
Why don't you explain it a little bit, and then we can...
So Joel, the creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000, has returned the Kickstarter to try to get 12 new episodes made. I believe they're funded through at least 3 episodes. They were very close to, I think, 6 episodes last I checked, and I think there's a week left or something like that.
I think it's 2 weeks left, and I think they're at 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah. So they're trying to do a reboot. Joel is not going to be the host. It sounds like he's behind the scenes, but they've gotten Jonah Ray from The Nerdist is going to be the new Joel or Mike. He will be the new guy stranded. They have new people doing Crow and Tom Servo, which is a little upsetting, but but
they have real comedians doing it. So
yeah,
I think
awesome. They have quite a few clips on the Kickstarter, and it's feeling pretty good. And I think that it helps also that they went with a brand new host as well. I look forward to seeing what happens.
For people that don't know, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is the original sort of like riff tracks of like people playing movies, typically bad movies, and sort of scoring them. They just added Felicia Day as the mad scientist on the show, which is an awesome fit.
I was that's exciting. I was actually kind of hoping that Joel would be the mad scientist, but you can't beat Felicia Day. That is super exciting.
And they have a third person to announce.
So
Norm, being younger than us, has no idea what we're talking about or why it's so culturally important.
I've seen riff tracks. I like riff tracks, but tell me about the format. Because riff tracks, it's about the people and the personalities. Tell me about what identifies the characters in Mystery Science Theater as being specifically funny, outside of like your past love for it.
What's funny about this show? I mean, you haven't seen it, so we're going to make you watch it.
Okay.
I think that's the number one thing. But it's basically like, a robot or 2 robots and a man in a theater watching this movie, and you actually see their silhouette.
Yep.
Watching the movie. Have you actually seen it?
I've
then?
seen that.
So
That part is iconic.
concept.
Yeah.
And I know that.
And there is so the guys who there's been many people involved with the show, and they've gone on to do, some did riff tracks and some did cinematic Titanic, and that's riffing on a movie. But what Mr. Science Theater brought to it is there was like a character and narrative, because the whole idea with it was that a mad scientist launches the janitor for the Gizmonic Institute into space and makes him watch bad movies as an experiment. So he builds two robot friends to keep him company, and they are forced to watch it. So every episode had little vignettes of the mad scientist communicating with the guys on the station, and there's an invention exchange where the guys on the station would create a new invention every week, often tied to the theme of the movie. And so there was it went deeper than just people making fun of the movie, and that was part of the charm. So,
Wow.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually, the Kickstarter is actually not doing as well as I thought it would. I thought it would blow it out of the water.
I thought it'd be like completely done by now.
I thought it would Reading Rainbow the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Like just have like $20 million or something.
I suspect that there is a little bit of like, oh, you're replacing, I think that there may be, for folks like ourselves, some resistance to the fact that a lot of the original people are not involved. And it's like, oh, I don't know about that. But yeah.
I don't think we're doing a good job on lightning round. We might have to actually lightning round it.
Let's thunder around that a little slower.
But it's so good. It's worth talking about.
Oh, next thing is on your list too.
Yes, the Lego Ghostbusters Firehouse.
All right, this is important.
Yeah.
So it's important because it's an amazing kit. This is part of Lego Ideas, which used to be called Kusu, not couscous.
Yeah. I look at words like that as just like nonsense to me, so I just make up how I think it should be.
So this is the program, and we feature products from the program before, where fans of Lego, adult fans of Lego, kids submit their designs, pitch their projects, and a lot of them in the past have been scientifically based. The first one, I believe, was either a satellite or the underwater the submarine, the Japan submarine. And we had the Mars rover, which I believe is on set behind us. There's also been some licensed things, which is includes. You see right there. See the Mars rover, Curiosity rover, right there in front of Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's been the Ecto 1. There's been Doctor Who, Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
But the licensed things are always trickier to do. So the big one to be announced, to be released January 1st, 2016, is the Ghostbusters Firehouse home base.
It's amazing.
And it is several, like 3,000 or 4,000 pieces. It's going to be a massive set, and it will fit the Ecto,
The Ecto 1, which is, they just knocked it out of the park. Yeah. It opens up. It's hinged, so it opens up. It has, I think, 3 or 4 levels. It's got the containment unit. It has the science lab, complete with colander. It's got it has like the figures. It's got Janine. It's got Lewis. It's got Slimer. It's really well.
Oh, I really
done.
wonder what Slimer looks like in Lego.
Yeah.
Well, the minifigs are all crazy now. You look at the
Yeah.
Simpsons minifigs, and they're not really minifigs. They're just the feet, yes, fit into the studs, but
Yeah.
they don't have the same personality.
But it looks excellent, and the fact that the Ecto 1 that they already released fits inside, it looks great.
So there is a little bit of confusion about this because the guy who designed the Ecto 1, who I believe is a test listener, I don't think he designed this firehouse. And I don't know if this is actually a Kusu set or if this is actually just a licensed official set that Lego designed on its own.
I don't know. I thought it was a Lego Idea set, but I know that there's some
And
confusion.
then there have been several Ghostbuster Firehouse kits proposed through Lego Ideas, but none of them got to the point in the approval process where Legos said this is the official one, and there was no blog post about it, at least not that I've seen. So, but regardless, it's going to be a real product, and can't wait to see it.
Yes.
I have a couple quick hitters before
Yes.
we get into the VR minute. Have you guys gotten your flu shot?
I have
No.
not.
I don't do the flu. Oh, I
You don't get a flu shot?
don't really get sick.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still you believe in vaccinations.
I absolutely.
Okay,
believe that.
there we
Yes,
go.
yes.
Yes.
So Uber launched something last year, and they expanded it this year, where you could get a mobile flu shot. You could order a flu shot. A nurse would come in the car. They'd give you a wellness pack for $10 and essentially give you the flu shot for free.
So
and
$10 for a flu shot, which you can get for free.
Yeah, I mean,
lot of
essentially,
places.
because of like how our healthcare system works and it's all messed up, like they actually had to offer the shot for free, and you would pay for this like wellness pack of stuff.
Sure.
And I actually know a few people that got it.
I want to do that right now.
Yeah, it's so more convenient because I don't.
Can I
wanna
do that?
I don't think it's offered today. It was offered last Thursday.
Oh.
I so wanted to order it, but I got busy that day and I didn't have a chance to do it.
Can never underestimate the power of convenience.
Yeah, and what's actually really interesting is I think there's going to be some epidemiology done on like who is ordering these shots and how effective a campaign it was to necessarily get people shots this way. Because when you think about, if I have to go to my doctor's office to get that shot, that's a real pain in the butt. I'm really excited about what it means if that actually works. So you're actually looking on Uber right now?
I'm on Uber
You're
right
trying
now,
to get
and
a
I'm
flu shot?
I mean, I would love before this podcast ends to have.
Oh, try it.
It's not there. I can
It's
get,
not
I
there,
get
yeah.
lunch with Uber, and I can get taxi.
This is way better than getting a DeLorean, I will say.
There's so many Ubers around this part of town, but none of them have
Have a nurse in it
the
for
nurse
you.
in it with the flu shot, with the wellness package.
Well, I think they did a few different cities, so I'm really interested to hear the results, and I hope they do it again because it seems like it's super worthwhile.
There are too many Uber options now.
But the most important news item of the day, no question. Do you guys know what the field equations of gravitation is?
No, tell us more.
It is one of the 5 most important scientific papers of all time, and it was published today 100 years ago.
Wow.
And it was published by an up-and-coming scientist. His name was Albert Einstein. It was the fundamental paper that laid the groundwork for general relativity. So today, when we're recording this podcast,
Anniversary?
is the 100th anniversary of general relativity being born.
Wow.
And general relativity is, you hear about special relativity, which basically says like space and time are sort of related in a pretty significant way. But general relativity really underpins our basis of understanding of gravity. And it is unbelievable how important that is to all of physics and how much impact that has today on our basic electronics and to our understanding of the universe in general.
That's fantastic. You're bringing some serious bona fides to this podcast.
This is really one of those anniversaries that means a lot. I mean, it was published in a Prussian Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences or something like that. Prussian, that's how old this study was. It was actually not incredibly well received at the time. It took Einstein 10 years to go from special relativity to general relativity, which is basically moving away from gravity being a force and actually being sort of an object of nature. A warping of space-time is what gravity actually is. I can't understate how important that discovery was. So pour one out for Einstein today.
Oh. Would gravity just not exist before then?
Gravity was considered a force, and it was considered that way since Newton's time through Einstein. But this idea of, if you think of like your bed as space,
And the
this is going to be a weird analogy.
and the Casper mattress. The
Yeah,
perfect dip.
yeah. You think of a Casper mattress as space, and you put stuff on it, like let's say a ball. And we'll call that a star.
I've seen Simpsons. I've seen this when Homer went into
This is exactly what it is. It's the warping of space that exists because of matter. That's really the basis of general relativity.
Yeah.
And before the YouTube commenters get onto me, I did an oversimplification just for the
because
Casper,
of
the mattress analogy.
because of how much you think how highly you think of our audience.
No, it's gonna. It's
oversimplification.
No, it's because like 8 hours of math does not a good podcast make.
You oversimplified it for present company.
Yeah, I oversimplified it because I don't think I can do the math anymore.
Fair enough.
Well, 100 years is a long time, and that's also how long it'll take before any of us get to watch the John Malkovich, Robert Rodriguez movie, aptly titled 100 Years. You guys hear about this?
No.
So
this?
it is purely I think it's primarily a marketing campaign. They did this with Louis VIII cognac, and which is aged 100 years. But Robert Rodriguez, maybe in response to Boyhood, who knows, has started a film project and says it will not be completed or released for 100 years. And maybe there's a script for it.
Are you citing The Onion? What is
no,
this?
this is it's a variety. It's a real thing. And basically, they're shooting on film, so there are a lot of technical considerations for how do you have a project last for 100 years.
How do you have a director that lasts 100 years?
Yeah, it's a collaboration. We gotta change those the Directors Guild DGA rules need to change for collaborations. But they've filmed some of it. There's a trailer or a screen grab. There's a teaser, not a trailer, and a featurette, because you can't have a trailer for a movie that's not completed yet. 100 years in the making. And the fact they announced this like now makes it obviously a marketing thing, and the fact that it's 100 years because of the Louis VIII cognac also purely marketing thing. But I think it's really funny that they're selling tickets to your descendants. You can win tickets for your descendants to watch this movie, because none of us will be ever able to watch this.
Do you go on Fandango to buy these?
I think
is it going to go
contest.
as well as Force Awakens did?
There are 1,000 metal tickets that will allow the receiver's descendants to see the
Are they
screening.
in candy bars? Like,
You got to drink the cognac, and it's in the bottle. No, you don't. No, that's not actually it. You don't.
I bought that. That's how gullible I am.
Yeah, I think it's a silly idea, but the idea of preserving things. They're looking forward to how do you make something that lasts is very interesting in both physical forms and media. There's obviously the Long Now Foundation's 10,000-year-old clock idea, and in reading books like Seven Eves, you kind of think like what are the enduring things in culture? Human culture has only been in documented history for several thousand years, 5,000 years or so. If we're talking about between cave painting and writing, so 10,000 years, you can't imagine what things will be like. And there's a great episode of 99% Invisible about how do scientists mark radioactive sites, contaminated sites for the future, where there is no imaginable language, right? It's just skull and crossbones, but that's not exactly it. So in just media format and writing something and creating a piece of content that is to be enjoyed in a format that film itself is barely over 100 years old is interesting. I hope that it goes beyond just a marketing gimmick. I hope it actually is something that they take a stab at. And the reason a lot of people do things is for permanence. So interesting. John Malkovich, good. Yeah, if you're talking about
Malkovich.
An actor to represent this era, couldn't have picked a better one.
I'm not waiting around for it.
No, I don't think so. It's a reason to survive. It's a reason to extend your life, to hit the singularity, so you can watch Robert Rodriguez.
I think there's better reasons.
100 years. 100 years. Speaking of teasers and trailers, see how I put that story in to get to this moment? Let's stop bearing the lead and talk about probably the most important thing this week. But wait, we have to do an ad read first. No! Hey, how do you build a website that's going to last 100 years? What does the web look like from then? I have no idea, but maybe the people at Squarespace have some idea, and they are the sponsor of this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. Building a website can be tough, and even if you know your way around coding and creating something that looks good and works well, it's a time-consuming affair. So whether it's for a business site, a portfolio, a restaurant, or whatever else, in this day and age, you probably need a website anyway. Well, lucky for us, Squarespace makes it easy to build beautiful websites without breaking a sweat. And I hate breaking sweats. Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and beautiful websites that look professionally designed regardless of your skill level. No coding required. Not only does Squarespace provide you with intuitive and easy-to-use tools to create your website with, Squarespace also has state-of-the-art technology for powering your site to ensure security and stability for when you get that viral hit on there. And you can trust Squarespace for your website needs when millions of people and some of the most respected brands in the world trust them too. So start your free trial today at squarespace.com. And when you decide to sign up, please make sure to use the offered code TEST. That's like this podcast name, TEST. This is only a test to get 10% off your first purchase. That supports them and supports us, lets us do what we're doing and continue what we're doing. So thank you, Squarespace, and thank you guys out there for listening. And now let's continue what we're doing by talking about Civil War, the teaser trailer. Dun, dun, dun.
So
yeah.
How'd you watch it last night? How'd you watch the trailer?
Well, today is Wednesday, so last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Chris Evans, some of the cast, surprise announced, revealed the trailer, and I was watching the Warriors game, the basketball game, Warriors, 16-0, best team in the NBA right now, and had to pause the game, flip on the Apple TV, load the trailer up on my phone, the second screen, and pipe it back up to the first screen over AirPlay and watch the trailer 3 times in a row.
Nice.
Did you see it last night, or you?
I did. I didn't jump on it like as soon as it was released, but I did. Yeah, just on YouTube or whatever.
I was actually watching Jimmy Kimmel just sort of by accident. I had the TV on in the background as my kid was fell asleep in my bed, and I was kind of like trapped. And wow. First of all, that wasn't a teaser trailer.
Yeah, that
was like a full trailer.
It's a full trailer.
Yeah.
It's a 2.5 minute, and it's not the first time any bit of Civil War has been seen by the mass public or even in at conventions. There was some footage that had been previously shown. I think actually different footage than what we saw, and it was also the stinger on Ant-Man. No pun intended for Ant-Man Yellow Jacket. But you had that scene where at the end of Ant-Man where Chris Rogers and the Falcon are talking to Bucky, found Bucky. And then, of course, you've seen the casting announcements. So this movie has everyone in it.
Mm-hmm.
No Hulk, no Thor, I believe. But, a big piece of the movie is Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. And for people who read the comic book, they know Civil War is a huge story. Mark Miller, I believe, wrote it. Yeah, Mark Miller wrote it.
So can we talk about the trailer? Are we going to have some minor spoilers here?
Well, I don't want to spoil the trailer for people.
Can we have speculative spoilers?
We can
where
do
I
speculative,
guess what's going to happen in this
but
movie?
we can also talk about what happened in the comics. Let's do that. See, let's talk about the comics Civil War, because Sean, you haven't read it.
Yeah, this is after I was a collector and a reader in the peak in the 90s there, and then I just got so disgusted with comics at that time. So I kind of dropped off there. Yeah,
this storyline is well after your time then, because it came out in like 06, 07.
Yeah.
I only read it like relatively recently, and it capitalizes on these great X-Men storylines where X-Men is famous for having these mutant registration storylines where we have to register every mutant. And I think Civil War sort of capitalizes on that with like, we need every super person with abilities, let's just say.
And for Marvel, it was a little bit of a turning point. This is in the Marvel 616 universe, not the Ultimates universe. So Marvel has always been, even though a little quote unquote more realistic and grittier than DC, which is funny because the DC movies now are overly gritty and realistic.
Overly, we'll argue about that, but okay.
Well, compared to the how fun the Marvel movies are tonally. When we talked about when you read the comics in canon, people don't really die, in supervillain attacks or in Hulk rampages. They talked about maybe a couple dozen people having died over all the Hulk rampage through Las Vegas and through New York, and and it's not like mass destruction crisis, right? And in Civil War, the thing that kicks off what happened in the comic books is actually a novice superhero team led by Speedball, and they engage a supervillain team close to a school, and one of the villains, whose name I forget, but his power is like
Nuke.
He has atomic reactions. He detonated, and the school and basically was pulverized, and in fictional Stamford, Connecticut, and so that caused this huge thing, and it was kind of like many of these stories, a little bit influenced by current events, and so it built up to basically the heroes splitting between two sides. some very firmly believing on the Tony Stark side that superheroes should register, and then some firmly believing on Captain America's side that registration is a slippery slope. And then you had people like Fantastic Four or Reed Richards siding with Tony, and the whole Marvel Illuminati being split up. So you have these like the huge superpowers and the brain trust, the power trust in the Marvel universe, which consists of Doctor Strange, Professor X, Tony Stark, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, and Black Panther. I believe that is all of them, and Namor. And
Namor. I always forget about him.
Can't forget Namor.
I think you can.
I
think you should.
So it was one of the great things about Civil War, the comic line. I think it did a couple things in changing Marvel canon, but in terms of execution, readers had to choose a side. Readers really felt the writing was so good in both the main storyline and the peripheral storylines that it really made you want to support both sides, and there was no clear good or evil.
Oh, I had a really different experience reading it, in the sense that I felt much more aligned with Captain America. But you're right in terms of the writing tried to make you pick a side.
Right.
I just felt like Captain America was always going to be more sympathetic for so many reasons. He had a more of a sort of a righteous nature to that, but it was interesting. It was a very all-in series too. Like every character got into this. Like no one seemed immune. There are mutants involved. Spider-Man is involved. So a lot of the classic characters became embroiled in this.
Well, in terms of classic characters, it was even such a big thing. I mean, Steve McNiven, who did the art for it, incredibly talented, had one of the most memorable moments in the past 10 years in Marvel Comics history, which was Spider-Man unveiling his identity to the public in a press release, or in a press statement, because he sided with Iron Man. And one of the things was, if you register with the Superhuman Registration Act, you have to reveal your identity. There are no such thing. And Spider-Man is the quintessential hero. And you have this great line about when he goes, "I'm Peter Parker, and I've been Spider-Man since I was 15 years old." And that was like, for Marvel Comics readers, like a sense of continuity and all that history and all the trauma that befell on Spider-Man. He's a tragic character because of his need for a secret identity and how him being a hero has affected his family and his friends. It all came to a head. And so these huge, like these great side stories. We're not going to get that in the movie.
No, and I was wrong. It's not Nuke. It's Nitro.
Nitro. Yeah.
Nuke, I'm getting confused of because of
what I find interesting is just based on the characters they've established in the movies is that I would picture the exact opposite stance between Iron Man and Captain America. I would picture Tony being like, "F that," So that's interesting. And Captain America's the all-American goody. So it's interesting.
You also have, if you look, yes, Tony Stark, the Robert Downey Jr. interpretation of Tony Stark is a little more independent, like a little more libertarian, and rebellious. But you think about his sense of responsibility, being a weapons maker. I mean, going back to the very first of this Marvel Phase 1 movie, where his guilt is what forces him to become Iron Man.
Right.
And his guilt, and I can totally see them using that again and saying, all the lives that have been lost because of the recklessness of heroes. And they're using Sokovia from Avengers 2, I believe, as the catapult and some of the events of...
You could see it in Ultron that they were setting up this sort of conflict between the two.
Yeah, the scene where they're both chopping wood. Great scene. I mean, that is the seeding of Civil War. And, the writers of Captain America, even the first Avenger and the last one, Winter Soldier, said they've been building up. They had Howard Stark be a big part of in that universe, being part of the founding of S.H.I.E.L.D. and being part of Captain America's past, and now Agent Carter, because they want to have that familial tie between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. Like, it's more than that they're friends; they are family. They have this direct connection. To
I wonder how much they're going to tie into sort of current stories, if they're going to cast Steve Rogers in sort of a Snowden-esque kind of way about him, that he's fighting sort of the idea of the all-seeing eye, of government and
Well, it's not
corruption there. Fair enough. But I mean, I wonder if they're going to have a little bit of that, because I sort of suspect we're going to get a little Captain America on the run, like in the shadows.
Here's the here in terms of adapting it and kind of giving comic fans the moments they love from the comic book. They used a lot of that up in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
In one of the greatest moments in Civil War, because you have actually Captain America, you don't know which side he's going to fall on. When the comics was that series was running, he is approached by Maria Hill, who in the movies is played by Colby Smulders, and she basically wants to arrest him, and then he breaks out of Shield out of a helicarrier, and like jumps on an F-22 and and does basically what he does when he escapes from the Shield facility in Winter Soldier when he realizes it's run by Hydra. So you have those moments already. Captain America on the run, going underground. I think you can't, as a comics fan, treat Civil War as just like the Winter Soldier as a straight adaptation. It thematically can be there, and I know they're pulling in things like Spider-Man. Made a big deal out of getting Spider-Man there, who was not in the teaser, not in the trailer.
No.
They're bringing in Black Panther because that's going to be a big franchise and movie.
Cool.
I'm excited to have T'Challa on stage.
Yep, and it's going to be a big brawl.
Yeah, which like the thing I'm concerned about. I'm really excited. The trailer was awesome. The thing I'm concerned about is Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was, I think, my second favorite Marvel movie of the bunch because
What's your first?
I would have to say just the nostalgia of Avengers made it my first favorite.
Okay.
Just like all of the Whedon-esque components coming together really well. But I loved Winter Soldier because of its homage to the spy movie genre, and I think that worked really well for Captain America. And now they're going to have to do something totally really different.
And it's the same directors.
Totally different.
That was going to be. It is the same directors.
And these directors are also directing, the Russo brothers directing Infinity War, Part 1 and Part 2. So this
That's
really,
what I'm most excited
this
about.
tees up. I know you're a huge.
I'm a huge Thanos fan.
Thanos fan. My theory is that Captain America's going to die at the end of this. You're going to give Bucky the shield, and you're going to have him holding and using the shield adequately. His death, I think, is what's going to unite all these. You're going to bring all these heroes in. You're going to have Ant-Man, you have Hawkeye, you have Vision. Vision also not in the trailer. You have Black Panther. Everyone comes in, and then to fight Thanos, you need all those heroes on one side. So I think the thing that unites them at the end is maybe Steve Rogers' death, and then you have, I believe, Steve Rogers. My theory is he comes back at the end of Infinity War Part 2, and the Infinity Gauntlet brings him back.
Oh, interesting. Because there was some jibber jabber about Chris Evans' contract deal, which I think also sets this up.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how many movies he's still signed for, but he definitely has. Everyone has expressed a little bit of fatigue because you talk about being in a movie every single year, basically playing the same character, kind of limits your other work options.
It is in Vision is in the in this.
I believe he's on the teaser.
Is he in the comic series? I take it.
Oh,
or in the comic story.
He's not an important character.
Because I'd be with what they've set up. If he is in the, I'd be curious to see what side he falls on. That'd be interesting.
Right, and they've developed Vision potentially as he could be like the soul of the team, him learning humanity. He's the Data of this team, and so he's the litmus test for right and wrong.
I really want to see Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, in this film.
Yeah,
because I thought he had his whole take in terms of Scott Lang was really different than the other heroes that we've seen.
You're gonna need superpowered heroes with some kind of moral ambiguity, not just goody goodies. In the comic books, Captain America turns to criminals who find the asylum with him because they don't want to be registered. And so it really isn't just like, because you were a good guy beforehand, you can only play for the good guys. And then of course there was the element of the Punisher in the Civil War comic series. We don't have that here. The Punisher was such a great character. So
Punisher is a wonderful character, and I hope they
takes
actually
up.
reboot that in an interesting way.
Yeah. Spider-Man, obviously, everyone's going to be excited to see that. A lot of theories about waiting for Super Bowl trailer to maybe see Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We haven't even seen Star Wars yet. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves in terms of the movie.
I want to go back. This could totally derail us, but you were talking about the destruction of the city and like how Civil War gets but they did somewhat address that in Jessica Jones, which I thought was really cool.
We're not ready to talk about Jessica Jones yet. Not ready to talk about that yet. Sorry, Sean.
On the heels of this, other exciting announcement in this world is Fox took a Fantastic Four sequel off its schedule, and
Yes.
thank goodness.
They should just let it alone.
Just bring back Corman.
I love Roger.
Yeah. Anyway, it's about time for virtual reality this week. Oh yeah.
This is some smooth intro
It's nice.
for VR Minute.
Yeah, we had to get a new intro, and I want to thank I don't have a new user for sending us this theme music for the VR Minute because we didn't have the old one. I'm gonna find his information, but I don't know how in depth you guys are, how much VR you guys have used. So none. Wow.
Which is crazy. I thought I would have stumbled across it on my trips in here, but yeah.
I've definitely used some.
Okay.
I haven't, not on the same level as our esteemed Norman Chan here. But I'll prompt you as you're looking through to get you started.
Andrew Kearns is the guy who made the VR Minute intro.
Awesome.
So thank Andrew, and thank you for this wonderful VR Minute intro. Since our recording of last week's podcast, the Gear VR, the first quote-unquote consumer-ready VR device, was released. The pre-orders have been going on for a while. They announced it at Oculus Connect 2, but on November 20th, you could go to a Best Buy or an Amazon, and if it wasn't out of stock, you could get the Gear VR headset for $99, $100. And this is a headset that you use with the latest generation of Samsung phones, Note 5, Note 5 Edge, Galaxy GS6, GS6 Edge, and you could run the latest version of Oculus's mobile VR software. It has been released to acclaimed reviews. People have saying VR is here, it works, and this being a first step to rotational VR, you can buy it and not feel like you're getting a crappy experience. To which I agree. There are a lot of great things that Oculus has done in the VR space in terms of adapting phone VR, rotational VR, so you have really low latency, you have image persistence, you're not going to get motion sick on a lot of the experiences, and they've done a really great job with developers and content makers making a nice broad amount of content to use if you buy it. It is still, I think, an accessory right now.
So you think it's really 360 video versus actual VR experience? No?
I think the Gear VR, I think there's plenty of room for rotational and mobile VR to be a huge thing in the future. I don't want to say room scale versus rotational. You have to choose one or the other. But I think right now, because of how much content is available and because of the actual price point of Gear VR is only a recommendation if you a no-brainer purchase if you already own a Galaxy phone. Now, if you don't have a Galaxy phone, maybe you're already on Android and you want to should this influence your purchase? Yes, I would go as far to say that if you're choosing your next phone, VR working really well with Samsung's phones is a huge plus in that field, something that LG can't have, that HTC doesn't have right now, and Sony maybe not yet doesn't have right now. If you're an iPhone, I don't think it's going to convince you to switch over a platform. If you already have a phone that you're happy with, it's not worth it to buy a new phone, $600, $700, and also spend $100 on this headset just for the current Gear VR experience. That in itself, if you're talking about how to spend your money, go buy a game console, go invest in a gaming PC. That's a better way to spend your money. For people who have been following Gear VR, maybe have tried the Innovator Editions and tried some of the dev kit stuff, or even have the Oculus DK2, it's not going to be a huge night and day. What was flipped on November 20th, wasn't that much different. There's Oculus Social. There's Netflix in VR now. There's a little bit more 360 content, and there's the Oculus Arcade. But it all feels like it's still kind of in this early, like as a launch right now. If you talk about console launches, it's kind of I'm still struggling to find content. It still feels like people are figuring out how to present UI to you, interface to you, and present that content to you. It doesn't feel like something that I'm gonna wear for 2 hours, just going from content to content.
I haven't had the Gear VR on for more than like 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
and it's purely because of content, like you say. It's not because of, I didn't get nauseous necessarily. But it's the content that I've been in hasn't been immersive enough to keep me there for an
Yeah.
extended period of time.
And I can go through. You can spend a day and just go through all the 360 video. You can play a lot of the games. A week into it, some of those games are novel. I'm not going to go back, or some of them are actually already finished. But it's not like the software is going to come out fast enough where it's going to be a big console investment. I still say wait.
But do you think the how well received the Gear VR has been since its launch is going to spur more companies to do similar things in this kind of space?
Yeah, and I mean that's a problem. Unfortunately, it's a chicken and egg problem. Those companies were already working in that space. I think a lot of those companies are also invested in selling $40 or $50 experiences on the desktop, as opposed to $3 to $10 or free experiences on mobile. It's the same problem that the iPad Pro has in terms of the app stores on mobile. The mindset of what consumer wants to pay is going to be lower than what they're happy to pay on a console, on a closed system on the living room side or the office side.
Sony doing a competitor to Gear VR?
Well, they did a blog post talking about the Xperia Z5, which does have a 4K display, and they said that it was hinted at, while they don't have a VR solution for it yet, it could be something. So they strongly indicated that they would be working on something as well. They don't have John Carmack working on that low latency and the persistence vision, so low persistence. So I don't know if that experience is going to be the same. Right now, really, to enjoy a lot of that content, because like you said, you can spend 10 minutes and get a sense of what rotational VR is. Cardboard, I think, is still the best and cheapest way to just see the content, see what 360 video, having a bigger canvas can look like. It's not going to be as good as playing Keep Talking Nobody Explodes on Gear VR or playing the Eve, the gunship game, but those experiences alone are not worth the $800. And then there's some other stuff. There's a Ghost in the Shell 360-degree video that was a VR demo. You can watch it on YouTube. Just search Ghost in the Shell VR or 360. It's not that great. The camera movements take you way too many camera movements.
Oh, that's disappointing.
It's kind of, even though you can play it at 5K resolution, video compression looks really blocky. You can download that MP4 file and ingest it in a Gear VR player to see it in your headset, but it's not that great.
No.
But there's also a difference, like right now in VR content creation. You have live recording. You have companies like Litro and Jaunt creating camera rigs, and GoPro creating 360 camera rigs and using software to allow you to move a little bit in that space, give you a little bit of head tracking and parallax. But you also have people like the Ghost in the Shell people doing purely rendered experiences. Some of which are interactive, or some of which are just rendered and pre-scripted. Real-time rendering versus pre-rendered. And there's a company called Presence, Presenz, or Presenz, that has a pre-rendered VR experience that also allows for some parallax motion. I haven't tried the demo yet, but I watched the video, and it looks really cool. And based on early reports from Upload VR and Road to VR, you can actually move your head in around a 1 meter by 1 meter space. Not room scale, not walking around and interacting, but I think it's still watching a movie and being able to comfortably move your head around just a little bit to enjoy the content and not have to stick purely rotational and stick in one axis and spin your head. I think it's going to be important.
I think Testa needs to make one of these for Adam's cave.
Tested won't do it, but there's nothing preventing anyone else from doing it, which is, I think, all I can say about that right now.
Good to know.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah, I added this last story in because we never hear much about Apple and VR. And
I thought you were going to say we never hear much about Apple on this podcast.
no,
To
no,
which
no,
I would
no.
say you're not a long-time listener at all.
No. Well, Jeremy's not here, so we're hearing less about Apple this week. But Apple acquired a Swiss startup called FaceShift, and FaceShift went sort of viral last year because they had a demo about taking a person and basically making a VR avatar of them using like the face features. So like, and it was really interesting to consider that Apple would acquire this, what this means for where they're going directionally around this space.
Yeah, avatar creation, motion capture, performance capture is going to be huge in VR. How do you translate the movements and intentions that you have in one space to a virtual environment without using video? And it is strange. Like you think of, is this for FaceTime? Is this like, are they going to use cameras to capture your face and then let you like? But that doesn't make sense. FaceTime is purely video. So what type of virtual environment does Apple want to play in?
I mean, it makes no sense to acquire them unless there's some sort of gaming output.
Right? Or communications output.
Oh, I
Like,
guess so. Communications for sure.
communications or entertainment or things you would use kind of the captured for. Yeah, I mean, the face is really tough to capture in terms of avatars. Like you can
I was
spend-
impressed with that demo last year because you could actually get some emotion coming through in the face of the avatar, which I hadn't seen much before in a lot of in that technology.
How are the eyes?
The eyes seemed okay. Like I
Still
saw,
dead.
I saw like the demos I saw online. Like people are getting turned into ogres, so like the eyes are always different shapes and stuff.
Like a doll's eyes.
Well, we'll see. We'll wait to see what Apple does. Maybe it'll be in VR. It's gonna get awfully crowded. It would be maybe a little too late.
That doesn't sound like an Apple model. It's never too late for
Of
Apple.
of course not. Touchscreen on laptops. They'll get to it eventually. Cars. Yeah, it's a ripe opportunity. They'll look for the ripe opportunities. Let everyone do the legwork of getting people interested in a category, and then come out with their interpretation for it.
That was a good VR minute.
I had this item listed on our show notes, but I think we're going to skip it over for now just because of time. But Kishore, in addition to being our new science correspondent, senior science correspondent, also produced our live show. So
I said the senior thing as a joke on
Oh, no.
one video. Now it's like sticking or something.
it's a thing that when I was an intern at PC Gamer, I was the senior executive intern. That was actually my title in the masthead. So
I said it because of the Daily Show joke of
Yeah.
like everyone like is senior correspondent
Exactly.
of something.
I'm embracing it.
Okay.
Senior,
You get a pay
senior fabrication.
Senior of
correspondent.
one is what's important here.
Mm-hmm.
He's calling us old.
But Kishore did also produce our live show as part of the Bay Area Science Festival, for which he is the director. And while we won't go too in depth about what made the live show, we will save that for a future episode. We will tell you that those videos are online now. So if you go to our YouTube channel, or if you're a premium member and you go to tested.com, you can watch the entirety of the live show, all 150 minutes of it, from the comfort of your home.
The only like show note I'll add that's behind the scenes little piece, we had to do the piece with Michael Schindler. We had to practice that a bunch of times before doing it on stage with Adam. So like those full-size tintypes exist of Norm, Will, and myself.
That's right.
As practice, and you can see them slowly get better up until
Why do you think we
Adam's.
did the live show?
so
We could get large format tintypes of ourselves
my wife
in rehearsal.
Yeah, my wife loves it.
Really?
I love it. I love that tintype.
That
it's amazing.
segment was really well done. Like and even the I've watched the video again. It was really well done.
All right, so let's move on to what we've been testing. And for that, there is no musical cue. So, Andrew, or if anyone else out there, I would love an intro, a musical intro for what we've been testing. I'll give you some audio bites right now. Tested. What we've been testing. What we've been testing. Hey, what have you guys been testing? Testing this week. If you need line reads, send me tweets or emails. I will do them for you.
I think we
create
should-
the audio intro.
I think we should definitely eliminate line reads as part of the podcast in the future.
So, what have you guys been testing?
We have the Form 2 in house.
Woo!
It's been super exciting. So we did. Let me back up a little bit. The Form 1 resin printer we tested last year, and so unlike what we are normally using, the FDM or filament printers, which is typically what you'd find in your home, where it's melting plastic and laying it down layer by layer. This is starting with liquid resin and curing it via laser, and you get really high resolution, very detailed prints. And we did a pretty thorough test run with the Form 1 Plus last year, and it was kind of bumpy. I liked what the company was doing. We did end up getting some good prints out of it, but we also went through 3 test units, and we for various technical problems, and that's up on the site so people can check that out. But I had kind of a list of like I really like what they're doing. I like the company, but there was a list of things that I had that I felt were issues. And so we got a sneak peek at it a few weeks ago, and now we have one in house. And I have to say, initial impressions, they addressed every single one of the problems I had with it, and then some, which I was really impressed with. That doesn't happen that often.
You have 2 prints in front of you right now.
Yeah.
One of your Guanas monsters, and another of a squid attacking the Nautilus.
Yeah.
Once you remove the supports, and we'll be doing a full review and video with the Form 2 later,
Yeah.
show you up close images of these. They are almost indistinguishable from molded and cast pieces.
They are. I am extremely happy with this. And so far, there's 2 print resolutions. You can do 0.1 millimeter, and you can do 0.05.
Yeah, 100 microns or 50
So
microns.
so far we've only even done the 0.1, and they have turned out phenomenal.
Actually, those are actually 0.5.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay,
these are the
good,
highest ones.
Good. I have a print of the monster that's actually even a little bigger than this at 0.5 from a professional printing place.
Printing service.
And these rival. I mean, these are on par with that.
They do look really exceptional.
Yeah, and I have to say the professional print. We'll post more of these. You know what? There's actually a picture of the print in the Gowanus Monster article. It's the last picture with the Lego guy, and that I did not pay for this because it was part of a job that I did, but it was, I think they were $200 a piece.
It
and
would have
it's
cost you
4 inches long. It's $200 a piece.
For SLA printing at that resolution,
Yeah.
and something that looks almost as good, if not just as good, from the Form 2,
Yeah.
costs time, 6.5 hours of printing, and
It is
couple bucks in the resin.
really, really good. And so far, no failures or misprints or anything. So yeah.
I was impressed looking at it over there. The bed size is really big. It's bigger than I expected.
They really upped the size of the print bed, yeah. And they have a new peel mechanism because with each layer that is built, it has to basically peel it off the bottom of the tank. They have a new peel mechanism, and they added a wiper that if you do get and that basically the typical failure you get with this kind of printer is that you get a layer that sticks to the bottom of the tank and doesn't peel off. And what happens then is that stuck layer blocks the laser from building any other layers. So they added a wiper that will get rid of little bits like that. And so you might get a little defect in the print, but for the most part, the print should finish, and you might have like one minor defect.
Yeah.
But I mean, thus far, I think we had very few misprints or problems like
The
that.
quality is high. We're looking for consistency, ease of use, price, obviously, with using the resin cartridges now, and also how easy and durable these prints are over the long run, because they are affected by UV light. And there was a little bit of a cleanup process with isopropyl alcohol, and it's a $3,500 printer, which is in the high end, but it also is one of the quietest printers.
Oh yeah, Yeah,
I've
because
seen used.
there's no stepper motor. Well, there are stepper motors, but you don't hear it singing like the FDM printers.
Yeah.
And it's pretty quiet. We'll be doing more at this, and we'll do some direct comparisons with the professional print that I have, and we'll be having a thorough write up on that, and we'll be testing. They're going to be sending us. They have a bunch of new resins compared to the last time we did this, and they're going to be sending those as well. And we're gonna try some stuff.
Like different
Flexible
colors,
resins.
or
Well, they not only have different colors, but they have different properties. So the one issue that in the typical resin, they have clear, gray, black, and white, and it typically the normal resin at the time it has kind of like an acrylic like quality, so that if you had like a substantial print, like this, and you dropped it or something, it's going to shatter for the most part. And they typically tend to get more brittle as they cure more. And they've since introduced a tough resin, which I'm super interested in because I build a lot of mechanical stuff. So it's more like it's a little impact resistant. It has a little give to it. And they have a flex material now, which is cool, like kind of a rubbery. And they have a castable material so that you can do like burnout castings of like jewelry and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've got some really cool.
You can make
stuff.
a mold and then put metal in.
Yes.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah. So we'll be playing with this some more. It's super exciting.
I've been continuing testing on the iPad Pro 2, now using with the Logitech Create keyboard. Week 2 now of no pencil availability, but people who have been lucky enough to get their iPad pencils, Adam on tour, have said that they love it. It really seems like the number of apps available for the iPad Pro 2 to use with drawing the pencil is fairly limited, and the Apple Notes app is the best use right now. And they have not opened up the code so people can take the just part of the Apple Notes app and incorporate it in their drawing programs, add functionality. So it's a little bit of an inconsistent experience, is what I've heard.
when do you think you're going to be able to get a pencil?
It should be shipping next week.
Oh, that's pretty soon.
Yeah.
I'm building a new gaming PC. It should be done in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
I did not take Tested's advice, and I went out and got a Skylake processor and a GTX 970 because there is this product coming out Q1 of next year, right?
Hopefully.
So I built it, primarily as a Steam machine and did some parting out and stuff. But I got some good deals because of Black Friday. And it should be online in a couple of weeks, but I'm excited for it being my Oculus box next year.
Nice. Or Steam VR.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
VR. Yes.
Either way.
The better, yes, the platform you want to spend a couple $100 on the headset for. And then I think we've all been watching Jessica Jones.
Yeah, how far are you?
I finished episode 6 yesterday.
I think I just finished episode 5 last night.
I think we're on 7 or 8.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It's a 13-episode season. This is Marvel's second Netflix show after the success of Daredevil. They actually bought 5 shows at once to co-produce with Netflix and I believe ABC Television. But it is Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, the immortal Iron Fist, which is the one I'm looking forward to the most. And
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Of all of those?
Iron Fist I am a huge Iron Fist fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's going to be a
Brubaker's
lot of
Iron-
narcotics in that one, so I'm not as
And
excited.
martial arts and weird fantasy stuff.
Fair enough.
And then also culminating in their version of a superhero team, which is the Defenders, which is several years out from now. But what's interesting about Jessica Jones is that it's a story of Alias, Brian Michael Bendis' comic from back in the early thousands. Very, very highly regarded, part of the Marvel Max line, a little more definitely a grittier line. Private investigator who used to be a superhero named Jewel, and the story is about her interactions with the superhero community, and then as well as revealing the past that she has and the trauma and her misadventures as a superhero. Jessica Jones becomes an incredibly important part of the Marvel universe and canon in the Avengers, with a relationship with Luke Cage, and then and being really a strong figurehead in that organization in the Avengers. But the character here, it's played by Kristen Ritter, and while they do a great job, I think, of telling that original Alias storyline, the complete lack of interaction with the superhero community, I think throws it a bit off for me.
She's come a long way from Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23 on ABC, which was her last role, I think.
No, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Come on.
Damn.
And even
Wait.
Even the B in 23, she's great in it. I mean, she's a great actress.
But she's definitely different. She's moody in this.
It's very broody and moody, and it's a dark story. David Tennant, he's changing. He's cashing in all the goodwill from Doctor Who, 10th Doctor,
so
to
good at
play
being
the
bad.
villain.
Yeah.
It's a really creepy villain. And the show, I think,
Purple Man's a tough
villain because
villain to play.
but it's not a character that has a lot of depth. It's a sadistic character, and you can only go so far, even on Netflix television, to show what type of power that person and what type of thing he can do. So they kind of make him more obsessed with her than about, and it's about their quote unquote relationship. I love Luke Cage in the show.
He's great.
I think he's fantastic. It's interesting that they have him as a semi-regular on the show, kind of like the night nurse role, but or Rosario Dawson's role in Daredevil. But he'll have his own show that they're already making, so they're kind of seeding that already.
He is a level of handsome in this show that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. He is a stunning character
He is
on screen.
But hey, yeah, I said something last night that I could not unseen. I had to share it. His ears are really small. Sorry, you can't unsee it now. Try it. Go watch Jessica Jones. You won't be able to unsee it.
Okay. I don't like. I share your. I think it's natural for us to compare this to Daredevil. I think you have to, just because of how it is. It's completely different outside of the Hell's Kitchen sort of landscape.
Yeah.
This is so much harder to watch for me than Daredevil, because you're dealing with PTSD and trauma and like emotional trauma
and rape,
and rape, just abuse,
yeah,
in such a visceral way. Like, in some ways, I hope this becomes the more important show between the two, because Daredevil, I think, followed more formulaic's not quite the right word, but it followed a more traditional path, being sort of an action piece. I'm still not quite halfway through, so it's hard to say. I'm sure I'm gonna like. I'm probably gonna like Daredevil more because it's had more iconic. Daredevil had more iconic visuals, like it had the fight scene, it had that the whistle scene. But I think this is important to watch.
Maybe my issue with Jessica Jones so far is that, like every show, there are multiple threads, and you have a main thread that is like the arc of the show, and then you have these intertwining things that go around it. And Daredevil, I think, had a really strong, and every great show has really strong B stories, C stories, and intertwining threads. Jessica Jones, it feels like, with the Carrie-Anne Moss storyline and her best friend storyline, that stuff feels really weak maybe in comparison to the main storyline.
I don't know. I really, really like it, and I like that I came in knowing I know nothing about Jessica Jones, other than I was vaguely aware, and I think this is refreshing because it's less superhero-y than a lot of stuff, which I think I personally like, and I think it'll draw a lot more viewers for that reason. And it has an amazing powerhouse female cast and characters going on, which is, I think, really cool. And
it passes Bechdel test every episode.
It's so good.
100%.
And so, yeah, I've actually kind of found it refreshing to be a little less superhero-y. And I'm also coming from while I did read a lot and collect a lot of comics, and I read Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman stuff, but my favorite stuff by far was to read a lot of the Vertigo titles and stuff that were comics, so Sandman, Preacher, a lot of those.
John Constantine.
Yeah, and which were they were different, and so I've been enjoying. Jessica Jones reminds me more of that kind of stuff, which I really like.
They told fantastic stories but set in a fantastic world.
Yeah, and they still, and I like that they are, they have made reference. They made reference to the Avengers and stuff like that. So.
I hate how they talk around it. Yeah. It seems so
they should just say it.
Just say it, and then you don't need to dwell on it. You don't need to. Every episode needs to be let's call the Avengers, but just don't say.
Daredevil
so
did the same thing
about the green guy and his friends, and just say the Hulk. just say Captain America.
Yeah.
The incident, just say, they say like alien invasion, but just say like, make it a little more believable. I know it wants to be its own thing, but it's almost distracting when there's so many like when they try to be clever and talk around it.
I totally agree. I mean, they should just acknowledge it and move on, because the storyline they built is like, we're still in the aftermath of New York after the destruction of New York, and we're in this place of rebuilding in the context of there's now people with abilities, and the city is in ruins to a certain extent, and that has brought out all sorts of characters, let's just say.
And I will agree with that. I think there is a bit of a disconnect there where if you want to make it its own little like corner and kind of ignore the other stuff, then do that. But while I enjoyed them referencing the Avengers and what happened with that, it is a little distracting, I think, too. It makes a disconnect there.
Well, if you read Alias, one of the first story arcs, and you don't get to the Purple Man, the Kilgrave stuff for a long time. That is supposed to be a huge, and they obviously draw it out as a theme of this show. But in the comics, being a private eye and you never know too much about like her past as Jewel, one of the first story arcs is her on a reconnaissance, like on an assignment, on a job, and unexpectedly discovering Captain America's personal life, like Steve Rogers, and you see some of that, the Steve Rogers personal life in Winter Soldier, and it's in New York. I guess it's in DC for him, but like that kind of interaction, the peripheral interaction, where she doesn't need to be engaged in fighting the Ultron stuff, but just like it's about her personal life as an ex-superhero and someone who lives in a world with superheroes, then you can bring in some of those other aspects of the superheroes.
Having not been familiar with the story, her friend Trish, I'm assuming Trish is like, she becomes a hero.
I don't even know if she's in the comic.
She is. Okay. There's things that we shouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone that you see, like if you Google their name, something will come up. Like so like don't because it like some of them that make no sense to me. How like that person with a character makes sense.
All right, that's part of the reason I have been avoiding, because like I kind of want to be surprised, but yeah.
Spoilers without being spoilers.
All I said is don't Google people's names as they come up on screen in Jessica Jones. It's a bad idea because it doesn't make sense.
Awesome.
The one thing I'll say is I'm definitely intrigued. I'll finish. I'm having the toughest time. I have a lot of empathy for Jessica's character, but I'm having a harder time rooting for her as much as I did rooting for Daredevil. Like her cause isn't as compelling to me. It's more cringy.
I can see that.
Which doesn't mean it's not bad. It's still good television. It's just a harder show to watch for me personally. Which I think is just a sign of how well designed this show is.
Wow. Okay, I really shouldn't have Googled that.
Yeah, that's what I told you.
Wow. Okay.
I told you.
Never mind. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank Kishore, thank you, Sean, for being here on the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
To record this episode with me.
Happy Black Friday, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving and happy Splurge.
Happy Splurge Day.
Happy Splurge. Splurge 2015. I'm Norm, that's Kishore, that's Sean. We can find us every week on test.com. Kishore also co-hosts Inquiring Minds.
It's a weekly science podcast that you can find on the internets. We interview a scientist every week. You can chase me down at Science Quiche for my hyperlapse of the shenanigans I'll be up to on Black Friday.
Excellent.
The Splurge hyperlapse.
Yes, and I'm Sean. Hi. I have stuff on Etsy.
Check out Sean's Etsy store. Check out his columns on Tested and videos we've actually shot already with him. Will be coming out in the next month or so. But until then, we'll see you guys next time on the internet.
See ya.
Oh, who's the outro come out from?
And the outro this week is from someone whose name I didn't write down, but here's an outro anyway. And of course, it just took a while to get in.
Hi there, I didn't see you. Tested. I don't want anything to do with that stuff. I'm farty enough naturally.
Thanksgiving appropriate, I think. Just a little bit. Rockets are hard, guys. So is podcasting. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.